resistance there, or is there some thought maybe given to the possibility that they are protesting because they are sick of communism?
Well, Peter, first I would say communism is a failed ideology, and we certainly believe that. It has failed the people of Cuba. They deserve freedom. They deserve a government that supports them, whether that is making sure they have health and medical supplies, access to vaccines, or whether they have economic opportunity and prosperity.
Ooh, the left isn't gonna like that one. What's going on, everybody? James here with Heavyweight Politics. And there you heard it. The Biden administration has officially taken the stance that yes, the people in Cuba are protesting thanks to communism, as well as they're saying that communism is not a good form of government. So, round of applause to them for finally figuring this out, because in the past, leftists have been very slow to figure this out, right? Well, let's be honest. The Democrats have never seen an authoritarian nightmare they didn't want to support. All the way back to the times of slavery, they fought to oppress the rights of people and to maintain control over people against their will. And of course, in the modern era, they can't have their slavery, so what do? They repackage it into something else, which of course is communism, where just like in slavery, you don't own any property. You don't have any fundamental rights. You don't really have the ability to choose who is running your life. So it's good. It's good that Biden is officially saying that communism is bad. The only problem with it is, of course, many people who are supporting him have done nothing but run defense for Cuba, including, of course, Black Lives Matter. Because as we know, the organization itself is a bunch of avowed Marxists. That's not what I'm saying. That is what they have said in the past. They have said they are avowed Marxist. They're the ones who said they want to break up things like nuclear family. They're the ones who say that the capitalist system is evil, because of course there's nothing more evil than saying, hey, you know what? It's my labor. Maybe I should own it. That's such an evil ideology. I know. Shocking. I hope I don't get removed for saying that one. But right now, Black Lives Matter has called for an end to the Cuba embargo. So here we are from the Hill. Black Lives Matter calls an end of the Cuba embargo. Black Lives Matter is calling on the U.S. government to end the decades-long embargo on Cuba amid the growing wave of anti-government protest on the island nation, arguing that the ban on commercial activity is cruel and inhumane. Now, here's the thing. I am slightly libertarian. I'm a very small L libertarian. Very small L, I would say. In many ways, I really don't care. I'm a live and let live kind of guy. Whatever you want to do, feel free. As long as it doesn't harm me or anyone else, hey, good for you, right? Good on you. If you want to have your communist commune somewhere in the mountains, hey, you know what? Good for you. You go at it, man. You do you, right? As long as you're not forcing people against their will to participate, I really don't care. With that said, here's where I kind of separate a bit from libertarians in a way. I don't believe in free trade across all borders, all right? I just don't. If a country is doing things we don't like, guess what? We have the power to say F you, and we're not going to trade with you. Why? Because we don't like you. We don't like you. We don't like the way you oppress your people. So this idea that we're going to not trade with an authoritarian regime like the Cuban government, and that's cruel and inhumane, I wonder, would these be the people who would also be saying, we should have continued trading with Germany during World War II because, not trading with them, that was so cruel and inhumane, right? Think about it. The German people didn't get food from America, and that's just horrible. It's awful. No, we didn't trade with them because we didn't like them. And we don't like Cuba's government either, right? Of course, we feel bad for the people there, which is why we want their revolution to succeed, right? We want, and I'm going to get to that term, by the way, because of course, the left loves using, they're great at propaganda. They're great at propaganda, but we'll get to that in a second. But of course, we care for the people who are rebelling in Cuba right now. Of course we do. We won't, and frankly, I think all of us on the Republican, Democrat, well, maybe not on the Democrat side, but on the Republican side, we want them to come over. We want them to come on over to America because they love this country. They love the idea of freedom. We want that in this country. That's great. That adds so much to our culture and to just our country as a whole. But of course, Black Lives Matter has to step in and say it's cruel and inhumane for us not to trade with them. So, in a statement shared with its official Instagram account, Black Lives Matter argued that the embargo was instituted with the explicit intention of destabilizing the country and undermining the Cubans' right to choose their own government. you might want to look at the history of Cuba and their revolution. There wasn't much choice to it. It was the epitome of the two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner, right? And of course, someone didn't make out so well. And it is at the heart of Cuba's current crisis. Can't speak all of a sudden. Since 1962, the United States have forced pain and suffering on the people. United States, not Cuba. Apparently, Cuba's all good. Cuba good. United States, not so much. We've apparently implemented pain and suffering on the people of Cuba by cutting off food, medicine, and supplies, costing the tiny island nation an estimated $130 billion. Now, there's a little bit of a lie mixed in here, all right? Some of the things they're mentioning, I'd have to look up and see which one all of them. I know food, for the most part, is allowed to be imported by Cuba from America. We do allow some things to go to Cuba. I think it was around the year 2000 when we actually kind of changed up how our embargo worked. And we did say, I think when it came to some things that people considered vital for people's survival, that we did start allowing over. So I believe, and I might need to check this just a little bit, but I do believe that stuff like food is allowed to go to Cuba currently, but I'll check that out. There'll be a little note on the bottom of the screen whether I was right or wrong on that. So let's continue. The Black Lives Matter condemns the U.S. federal government's inhumane treatment of Cubans and urges it to immediately lift the economic embargo, the civil rights advocacy organization added. It's funny, civil rights advocacy, even though they're against the civil rights of people in Cuba. Of course, Marxism doesn't believe in the idea of civil rights, but they're still considered a civil rights advocacy group. Kind of a issue there. The group went on to say that the people of Cuba are being punished by the U.S. government because the country has maintained its commitment to sovereignty and self-determination, of course, adding the United States leaders have tried to crush this revolution for decades. Now, that's why I wanted to hold off on mentioning revolution here. So, I'm just going to stop right there because for the most part, of course, they go on saying, this suffering, and of course, there's 4 million black and brown people there, right? They got to find some way to wrap this in with Black Lives Matter because, of course, they will never support something unless they can make it about race. That's how they work. They're a very racist organization like that. But I do want to get to this idea of them saying revolution, right? They still will call the establishment government of Cuba the revolution. MSNBC, CNN, even Fox News at times, that they'll continue to call the Cuban government the revolution. And I just have to wonder sometimes, how long does the government have to be in power until it's no longer the revolution and until it's the establishment? Cuba's government has been, the Cuban communist, dictatorship they got over there has been established for quite a while at this point. So this idea of calling them the revolution is kind of bizarre, right? I mean, they are the establishment. They are the solidified government of Cuba. The only revolution there is in Cuba are the people protesting in the streets. Their government is not a revolution. All right, the revolution is over. It sucks, but the communists won in that revolution, right? And so now the communists are the establishment. The revolution that's taking place is of the people who actually want freedom over communism. And because they are complete opposites. You cannot have freedom and communism. You have to choose. And it's this idea, of course, would you rather live your entire life as a poor and impoverished, free man, or would you rather live your life as a slave but with golden shackles, right? Even the idea of what the best case scenario of communism is, it still enslaves the people and forces them against their will to things they don't want. That's the issue with it at the end of the day. Communism isn't just an inadequate system. It doesn't just not work. All right. The idea of centralizing power, of course, you're going to have a dictatorship because, men are not angels. If we were angels, we wouldn't need government. Someone will always go for that power. Someone will always reach as far as they can possibly go. And when you have centralized that power in one spot, of course, you're going to have a mad dictator who's going to try and take that power. That's the only people who are going to go after that spot in the first place. Not everyone's going to have a George Washington who says no to being a king, right? Everyone else, for the most part, 99.9% of people on Earth would say yes in a heartbeat So this idea that communism is morally good but just doesn't work is a complete fallacy in itself, and Republicans have fallen into this problem all the time. I remember so many times some people who are on the right would continue to say, well, you know, communism's good an idea. No, it's not. It's terrible an idea. You're centralizing all the power of the nation into one position. In one position. And eventually someone's going to go for that. You take away the rights of people. You take away their self-ownership. Like, that is evil in every way possible. It's not just as inadequate as a system of economics or a system of governance. It's that it's also morally reprehensible to its core. And of course, very rarely have Republicans made the argument. Luckily, we're starting to see that taking place. We start seeing people like DeSantis speak up heavily against it. Even Marco Rubio, who of course I'm a little bit of, well, what am I saying? He's not a little bit of a rhino. He is just a flat-out rhino. I don't really care for him that much, but even he, of course, is going to sit there and say very negative things against Cuba and communism, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, of course, a lot of that has to do with his heritage because, and just for obvious reasons. However, it's still great to see because Republicans typically are the ones who are calling out things like these authoritarian governments. Meanwhile, of course, during the Cold War, who was it that went and honeymooned in the Soviet Union as they mass murdered tens of millions of people? That's right, it was Bernie Sanders. Good on you, Bernie. I know you're a man of the people when you're over there, of course, honeymooning in a place where they have mass murdered tens of millions of people, where the estimates range from anywhere to 20 million to 100 million. And the fact that we don't even know, I think, is more horrendous than the number itself, right? The left has always been the side of supporting authoritarianism. Like I said at the beginning of this video, from slavery to now, they have always sided with centralizing power to run people's lives. Just because they repackage it doesn't change a thing. Either way, if you have enjoyed this video, please give us a like. You know, of course, it really does help out a lot. Subscribe to the channel below. You know, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I think is what we're trying to shoot for right now. It gives me plenty of time to hopefully get these videos out. Maybe doing a video on Saturdays, we'll see. And of course, comment below. What's some stories that you want to see talked about? What's some stories that you think are not getting enough attention out there, right? Let's face it, there's a lot of stories out there that are just kind of being left to the wind. And the more people out here talking about this stuff, the better we all are for it, right? We want as many voices as we can to be out there online as well as in public, because that's what's going to change the hearts and minds of more and more people, right? So please, again, make sure you like, subscribe, comment below, and we will see you again real soon.